The governor and state lawmakers came together last week to pass new legislation that attempts to fix problems with Arizona's new automatic recount law, problems that could delay the state's entire election process. So, what has changed, and how do the changes address election timing issues? We ask. Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Richer, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for taking it. There's a lot to go through here. Let's get right into it. I guess the biggest thing is moving that primary election date up. Talk to us about
So that's what voters need to know. And that our normal August primary, and that's the primary in which you can vote for the U.S. Senate candidates, the House candidates, the state legislature candidates, as opposed to the presidential, which is happening in March. But that August 6th primary date has been moved to now July 30th. So up 1 week. And the reason for that was owing to a whole bunch of factors, changes to state law, changes to federal law, the calendar. I'm sure Taylor Swift was involved somehow.
Yeah.
But because of all those reasons, they needed to expand them out a little bit.
Okay, does that time give you guys enough time for recounts?
Right. So the two important things that we were worried would be imperiled were, one, being able to send military and overseas voters their ballots 45 days before the general election, and then two, being able to send Arizona's delegates for the presidential contest in early December. Both of those were potentially going to be problematic with the new recount law that was going to trigger more recounts and make us do all of this stuff after the election. So this allows us to meet those deadlines, and so that's why all 15 counties came together with the state legislature, with the governor, and put together this package.
Okay, and it sounds like July 30th was the date for the primary. Moved it up now.
Was August 6th.
Was August 6th.
Now July 30th.
But it goes back to August 6th in like 2026. What's the point of that? What's that all about?
So I think they're going to look at a longer term solution, whether they just want to move it up 1 week or whether they want to move the primary to May. And that's part of a broader conversation that they want to have. But we needed it fixed by at least 1 week for this short-term solution.
Ballots mailed to early voters. Did that change? Did that date change as well?
Everything moved up 1 week.
So everything goes.
Exactly. So 27 days before. Now, for most voters, they'll know it's election time when the ballot comes in the mail, and they'll just know that they have to get it back within 27 days. And of course, we'll have the right dates on the election material. And so it'll say, you must drop this off no later than 7 p.m. on July 30th.
Signature verification for those that are helping those with disabilities.
Okay.
This seems like this was in here too. How does that process work? And do you have to be a registered voter to assist a what's going on there?
Yeah, so there were a few changes that were made to that, but the important part of this is that if you are in need of assistance, please contact our office now, and we can send a bipartisan team out to your nursing facility, out to the hospital. This is if you can't mark the ballot yourself. So you can relay that to a Republican and Democrat sitting there together who will put that down. Yes, they are going to be registered voters. Yes, they're going to have these background checks, but they're still going to be able to service voters.
Does that change much?
A little bit, but it's on the administrator's side, and so it doesn't encumber the voter in any way, and we want your experience still to be as positive.
You know, we've talked about curing votes, and now they changed the dates on those five regular days as opposed to 5 business days.
That's exactly
to cure votes, and everyone goes, that's interesting. What's curing votes? What are you talking about?
What, is it sick? No.
Yeah.
So this is when your signature is inconsistent with the signatures that we have on file. So as you all know, if you voted in Arizona before, you have that green return envelope and you sign in the box. And we take that signature and we compare it to past signatures to confirm that it really was you. If we cannot make that comparison soundly, then we will call you, we will text you, we will email you, and now we have 5 calendar days to do that instead of 5 business days.
Does that make much of a difference?
We'll need to put more hours into those 5 calendar days instead of the 5 business days. And obviously Maricopa County being a large county, in the November 2022 general election, we had about 14,000 ballot packets that we needed to cure. So it's a lot of work, but we'll just throw more bodies at it in fewer days rather than having it over the 5 business days.
And it looks like there were changes with ballots handed in on Election Day, which is always a favorite for election.
Yes.
They love it when people do that.
Yes.
So you can return them now on Election Day, but what's going on?
So you can return them on Election Day, so it doesn't have to change anything for how you actually participate. However, it will give you an added option of being able to show your identification such that it doesn't then have to go through the signature verification process if you show up with that early green return envelope on Election Day. But if you want to do what my household does, then you would get it back to us earlier, and then we can have all of those results ready at 8 p.m. on election night, because we've already done the signature verification, we've already securely removed it from the envelope, and we've already sent it to tabulation.
Well, there's a reason they're early ballots. The idea is to get them in
like
early.
put the early back in early ballot.
Yeah,
How about it? All right.
there you go. But will this speed up the vote, though? I mean, these changes as far as early ballots and taking them in on election day?
So I've proposed a lot of things to be able to have a higher percentage of the ballots tabulated within the first 24 hours. But what this is really intended to do is to address that recount, that change of state statute that's going to have more recounts after the canvass period. So this isn't really about speeding up the tabulation process so much as is buying more days to allow for potentially more recounts.
But what does it mean for polling places? I mean, you can start getting crowds and different lines forming out there?
If you're showing your
Yeah.
identification, we're going to have to figure out exactly how we're going to be able to do that, but that's something that we'll work through. The vast majority of people participate either through just dropping it off in a bucket in a secured ballot drop box, returning it through USPS, or showing up and getting a new ballot voting in person.
Okay, now that's a general primary for everyone else, but the presidential preference election, that's a whole different beast here, and that's happening in March.
That's right. So that's March 19th. That is just for the presidential candidate. So if you're a Republican, this is choosing between, say, Donald Trump and Nikki Haley or any of the other candidates that are on the ballot. You have to be a registered Republican or a registered Democrat to participate in this. This is different from that other primary that we were just talking about, in which you can be an independent and you just choose a Republican ballot or choose a Democratic ballot. So for this March 19th presidential preference election, go to beballotready.vote, and make sure you're either registered as a Republican or a Democrat if you want to participate.
And if you're an independent, don't expect any messages. Just go out and
if you're an independent, while your friends, while your friends are getting their ballots, and you're feeling jealous, you should go spend your time otherwise.
Thanks a lot for that. All right, jurisdictional elections. Last question here. Got a lot of things going on in different places here. What do we need to know?
That's right. Just to make things a little bit even easier, we have a jurisdictional election the week before that presidential preference election. So presidential preference election, March 19th. But we have an election on March 12th that is going to be just for the city of Tempe and for the city of Litchfield Park. So they have some local races that are going to be on the ballot then. So if you're a mail voter, you're going to first receive a ballot by mail for maybe your Tempe jurisdictional elections, and then maybe a week later you're going to receive a ballot by mail for, say, if you're voting in the Republican presidential preference election. Just read the instructions, be careful, and make sure you put the right ballot in the right return envelope when you're getting it back to us.
Well, thanks. It all sounds very easy, Stephen. Thank you.
But we're
so
here to help. We're here to help. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, just contact our office. And a good rule of thumb is reach out to us earlier rather than later, because we can solve more problems if you give us more time.
And we will give you more time if you're good enough to come back and talk to us. So we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.